Some people are born into wealth. Some people are born into struggle. But there is something more powerful than money. A mother who refuses to stop believing. This is the story of Mummy Ejiro, a woman who had nothing except hope, faith, and a promise she made to her child. Many years ago, in a small Nigerian community, Mummy Ejiro lived a simple life. She did not have a big house. She did not have enough money. Every day was a battle to provide food, shelter, and a better future for her only child, Ejiro. Life was not kind to her. There were days when she went to bed hungry so her child could eat. There were moments when she looked at her empty hands and wondered how tomorrow would come. But whenever she looked at Ejiro, she remembered the promise she made. She promised her child, "I may not have everything today, but I will never stop fighting for your future." Every morning before sunrise, Mummy Ejiro worked tirelessly. She carried heavy responsibilities on her shoulders, but she never allowed hardship to destroy her hope. People around her told her to accept her situation. They said, "Life is too difficult. Stop dreaming." But Mummy Ejiro refused to listen. She believed that a child raised with love, discipline, and determination could achieve greatness. As Ejiro grew older, he began to understand the sacrifices his mother had made. He saw the tiredness in her eyes. He saw the struggles she tried to hide. And he made a promise of his own. A promise that one day, he would change their story. Years passed, and the child Mummy Ejiro fought for began to rise. The same hands that once struggled to provide became the hands that held a brighter future. But Ejiro never forgot where he came from. He remembered the woman who believed in him when nobody else did. Because behind every great child is often a mother who refused to give up. This is the story of Mummy Ejiro, a woman who had little but gave everything. A woman who proved that hope can survive hardship. And a mother whose love became the greatest gift her child ever received. She looked at her son and saw something the world could not see. While others saw a poor child with an uncertain future, Mummy Ejiro saw a dream waiting to be discovered. She saw the strength hidden behind his struggles. She saw the intelligence behind his quiet moments. She saw a future that had not yet arrived. But believing in Ejiro was not always easy. There were many days when life tested her faith. Days when she counted the little money she had and wondered how she would provide for the next meal. Days when she watched other children have opportunities her son could only dream about. Yet, every time doubt tried to enter her heart, she looked at Ejiro and remembered why she could never give up. To the world, he was just a young boy from a struggling home. But to his mother, he was a blessing. She encouraged him when he failed. She reminded him of his worth when he felt forgotten. She taught him that his background was not a limitation, but the beginning of his story. Mummy Ejiro did not have expensive gifts to give her son. She did not have connections that could open doors for him. The only things she had were her prayers, her sacrifices, and a love that never disappeared. Every night, after the world went quiet, she prayed for a future her eyes could not yet see. She prayed that one day her son would understand that every sacrifice was made out of love. And slowly, something began to change. The little boy she protected began to believe in himself. Because sometimes, all a child needs is one person who believes in them before they believe in themselves. For Ejiro, that person was his mother. Mummy Ejiro did not just raise a child. She raised a dream. And she was willing to fight every battle to see that dream become reality. Words became the foundation of Ejiro's life. They were not just words from a mother to her son. They became a reminder that his circumstances did not define his destiny. Growing up, Ejiro often looked around and wondered if someone like him could ever achieve greatness. He saw other children with more opportunities, better resources, and easier paths. Sometimes, he questioned whether his dreams were too big for his reality. One evening, with a heart full of doubts, he turned to his mother and asked, "Ejiro, Mummy, sometimes I wonder if someone like me can really succeed." Narrator, Andrew. Mummy Ejiro looked at her son with a gentle smile. She knew the world might see his struggles, but she saw his potential. She held his hands and spoke words he would never forget. "Mummy Ejiro, my son, never measure your future by what you have today. Great things can come from small beginnings. Do not allow your present situation to make you forget the greatness inside you. A seed may look small, but when it is planted and cared for, it can grow into something mighty." Narrator, Andrew. Those words stayed with Ejiro. Whenever life became difficult, he remembered his mother's voice. Whenever he felt like giving up, he remembered the woman who believed in him before anyone else did. Mummy Ejiro did not give him wealth. She gave him something far more valuable: the confidence to believe that his dreams were possible. And from that day forward, Ejiro carried one truth in his heart: greatness does not always begin with what you have. Sometimes, it begins with someone who believes in what you can become. A mother's silent sacrifice. She went without food so her son could learn. She wore old clothes so her son could look presentable. She carried her own pain, quietly, because she wanted her child to have a better tomorrow. For Mummy Ejiro, motherhood was not just about giving birth. It was about making sacrifices that nobody else could see. There were nights when hunger visited their home, but she would smile and tell Ejiro that she was not hungry. She would watch him eat the little food they had, pretending everything was fine, even when her own stomach was empty. Every morning, she carefully prepared him for school. She wanted him to walk with confidence, even when life had given them so little. While other children wore expensive clothes, Ejiro wore the ones his mother had carefully cleaned and repaired with love. She knew people might judge them because of what they lacked, but she refused to let poverty take away her son's dreams. Behind every smile she showed the world were silent battles she fought alone. There were tears she wiped away when nobody was watching. There were worries she kept hidden, because she did not want her child to carry her burdens. Mummy Ejiro believed that her sacrifices today would create a brighter tomorrow for her son. She did not know exactly how the future would unfold, but she knew one thing: every sacrifice made with love is never wasted. And one day, Ejiro would look back and understand that his mother's greatest gift was not what she gave him, it was everything she gave up for him. The struggle after graduation. After graduation, Ejiro discovered that having dreams was easier than finding someone willing to give him a chance. For years, he had worked hard. He had listened to his mother's words. He had believed that education would open doors and create a better future. But after leaving school, he entered a world that was far more challenging than he imagined. The certificates he proudly carried were not enough to guarantee success. Every day, Ejiro searched for opportunities. He walked from office to office, submitting applications and hoping someone would see his potential. But many times, the answer was the same: "We will get back to you." Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, disappointment began to test his confidence. There were moments when Ejiro sat alone and wondered if all his efforts had been wasted. He remembered the sacrifices his mother had made, the meals she skipped, the clothes she continued wearing so he could have a better education, the dreams she carried for him. And he felt the pressure of wanting to make her proud. But despite every rejection, Ejiro refused to give up. He remembered his mother's voice telling him, "Never measure your future by what you have today. Great things can come from small beginnings." Those words became his strength during his darkest moments. Because sometimes, success does not come when we are ready. Sometimes, it comes after we have been tested, rejected, and pushed beyond our limits. Ejiro did not know when his breakthrough would come. He did not know which door would finally open. But he knew one thing: giving up would mean forgetting the woman who never gave up on him. So he continued moving forward, one application at a time, one opportunity at a time, one day closer to the future his mother always believed he could have. The weight of rejection. He applied everywhere. He waited. He hoped. But every rejection slowly damaged his confidence. After graduation, Ejiro believed that hard work would eventually lead him to an opportunity. Every morning, he dressed neatly, carried his documents, and stepped outside with hope in his heart. He visited offices. He submitted applications. He attended interviews. Each time, he imagined walking back home with good news. But many times, he returned with the same painful words: "Unfortunately, we have decided to move forward with another candidate." At first, Ejiro remained positive. He told himself that the next opportunity would be different. He believed that someone would eventually see his determination and give him a chance. But as the days passed, the constant rejection began to leave a mark. He started questioning himself. Was he not good enough? Was his dream too big? Was his mother's belief in him misplaced? For the first time, Ejiro felt the weight of disappointment. He looked at the same certificates that once filled him with pride, and now they felt like a reminder of how difficult life had become. But every time he felt like giving up, he remembered Mummy Ejiro. He remembered the woman who sacrificed everything just to give him a chance. The woman who wore old clothes so he could have a better future. The woman who smiled through pain so he would never lose hope. Ejiro knew he could not allow temporary struggles to defeat a lifetime of sacrifice. So even when his confidence was broken, he continued. He woke up the next day. He prepared his documents. He stepped outside again. Because sometimes, the greatest test before success is the moment when you have every reason to quit, but you choose to keep going. And Ejiro was determined to keep fighting for the future his mother had always believed was waiting for him. The idea nobody saw. Smart discovers his work. After months of disappointment and rejection, Ejiro had continued learning and creating quietly. While the world saw someone struggling to find an opportunity, Ejiro was building something with his own hands. Late nights, countless attempts, small improvements every day. He never knew if his idea would become anything meaningful. To him, it was just something he created while searching for a solution. But when Smart saw his work, he noticed something different. He saw creativity. He saw determination. He saw a talent that Ejiro himself had overlooked. Smart looked at him with surprise and asked, "Ejiro, do you know what you have created?" Ejiro looked at his work and smiled slightly. He still could not see what his friend saw. Just an idea? Smart shook his head. He knew this was more than a simple idea. Sometimes, the greatest opportunities begin as something small that others ignore. No, this is something special. For the first time in a long while, Ejiro began to wonder if his struggles had been preparing him for something bigger. Maybe the rejection was not the end. Maybe it was leading him toward a different path. A path where his own creativity would become the opportunity he had been searching for. Chance he deserved. Sometimes, life gives people a second chance to correct the mistakes of the past. The same manager who once looked at Ejiro and saw only a young man without experience was now seeing something different. He was seeing determination. He was seeing growth. He was seeing a person who refused to give up even when the world gave him reasons to quit. Months earlier, Ejiro had walked into that same office with hope in his heart. He had asked for an opportunity. He had explained that he was willing to learn and work harder than anyone. But at that time, the manager only focused on what Ejiro lacked. He saw the missing experience. He saw the humble appearance. He did not see the passion behind his words. But now, after discovering what Ejiro had created, everything changed. The manager realized that he had made a mistake. He understood that sometimes talent does not come with years of experience. Sometimes greatness comes from people who are simply given the opportunity to prove themselves. The manager looked at Ejiro and spoke honestly. "I judged you too quickly before." Ejiro listened quietly. He remembered the disappointment he felt when he left that office before. He remembered how close he came to giving up. But instead of holding anger in his heart, he responded with humility. "Everyone deserves a chance." Those simple words reminded the manager of something important. A person's future should never be decided by their current situation. Everyone deserves an opportunity to show what they can become. The manager looked at Ejiro with respect. He knew this young man had something valuable. Not just an idea, but determination, character, and the courage to keep going. And you deserve yours. For Ejiro, those words meant more than just a job opportunity. They were proof that patience and perseverance mattered. The door that once closed was finally opening. And behind that door was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter built not only on success, but on the strength of a young man who refused to give up and the mother who taught him to believe. Rest, but never give up. Mummy Ejiro noticed immediately. A mother's heart can recognize pain even when her child says nothing. The moment Ejiro walked through the door, she saw it in his eyes. The tired expression, the silence, the disappointment he was trying so hard to hide. She knew another opportunity had disappeared. She knew another rejection had added more weight to the burden he was already carrying. But more than anything, she knew her son needed encouragement. Ejiro sat quietly, staring at the floor. The same young man who once believed anything was possible was beginning to lose hope. The endless applications, the unanswered calls, the constant rejection, everything was starting to make him question himself. Mummy Ejiro walked closer and sat beside him. She did not see a failure. She did not see a young man who had lost. She saw her son, a son who was tired but still fighting. She gently held his hand and spoke, with the same faith that had carried them through difficult times. "My son, Did one closed door make you forget all the doors God can open? Ejiro looked at his mother. He wanted to be strong. He wanted to pretend everything was fine. But the pain inside him was too heavy. For the first time, he admitted how exhausted he truly felt. "Mummy, I am tired." Mummy Ejiro understood. She knew that even the strongest people become tired sometimes. She knew that even those with big dreams have moments when they feel like giving up. But she also knew that tiredness was not the same as defeat. She smiled gently and reminded him, "You can rest, but never give up." Those words touched Ejiro's heart. His mother was not asking him to ignore his struggles. She was reminding him that his struggles were only a chapter, not the end of his story. Sometimes, life becomes difficult not because we are on the wrong path, but because we are getting closer to something greater. That night, Ejiro rested. But deep inside, a small part of his hope began to return, because he remembered something important. As long as he had a mother who believed in him, his story was not finished. The idea nobody saw. Smart discovers his work. After months of disappointment and rejection, Ejiro had continued learning and creating quietly. While the world saw someone struggling to find an opportunity, Ejiro was building something with his own hands. Late nights, countless attempts, small improvements every day. He never knew if his idea would become anything meaningful. To him, it was just something he created while searching for a solution. But when Smart saw his work, he noticed something different. He saw creativity. He saw determination. He saw a talent that Ejiro himself had overlooked. Smart looked at him with surprise and asked, "Ejiro, do you know what you have created?" Ejiro looked at his work and smiled slightly. He still could not see what his friend saw. Just an idea. He knew this was more than a simple idea. Sometimes, the greatest opportunities begin as something small that others ignore. No, this is something special. For the first time in a long while, Ejiro began to wonder if his struggles had been preparing him for something bigger. Maybe the rejection was not the end. Maybe it was leading him toward a different path. A path where his own creativity would become the opportunity he had been searching for, the chance he deserved. Sometimes, life gives people a second chance to correct the mistakes of the past. The same manager who once looked at Ejiro and saw only a young man without experience was now seeing something different. He was seeing determination. He was seeing growth. He was seeing a person who refused to give up even when the world gave him reasons to quit. Months earlier, Ejiro had walked into that same office with hope in his heart. He had asked for an opportunity. He had explained that he was willing to learn and work harder than anyone. But at that time, the manager only focused on what Ejiro lacked. He saw the missing experience. He saw the humble appearance. He did not see the passion behind his words. But now, after discovering what Ejiro had created, everything changed. The manager realized that he had made a mistake. He understood that sometimes talent does not come with years of experience. Sometimes greatness comes from people who are simply given the opportunity to prove themselves. The manager looked at Ejiro and spoke honestly. "I judged you too quickly before." Ejiro listened quietly. He remembered the disappointment he felt when he left that office before. He remembered how close he came to giving up. But instead of holding anger in his heart, he responded with humility. "Everyone deserves a chance." Those simple words reminded the manager of something important. A person's future should never be decided by their current situation. Everyone deserves an opportunity to show what they can become. The manager looked at Ejiro with respect. He knew this young man had something valuable. Not just an idea, but determination, character, and the courage to keep going. And you deserve yours. For Ejiro, those words meant more than just a job opportunity. They were proof that patience and perseverance mattered. The door that once closed was finally opening. And behind that door was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter built not only on success, but on the strength of a young man who refused to give up and the mother who taught him to believe. A mother's greatest reward. Mummy Ejiro opens the door. For a moment, everything becomes quiet. She looks at her son standing before her and notices something different. The same boy she once watched struggle had grown into a man shaped by patience, a man strengthened by hardship, a man who never forgot the sacrifices that brought him this far. Years ago, she saw him leave home with dreams in his heart. She watched him face rejection. She watched him question himself. She watched him struggle through moments when success seemed impossible. But she never stopped believing. Now, Standing in front of her was the proof that every sacrifice had a purpose. Ejiro looked at his mother and remembered everything. The nights she stayed awake praying. The days she went without so he could have enough. The times she encouraged him when he had lost confidence. He remembered the woman who gave him hope when he had nothing left. With tears in his eyes, he finally spoke the words his mother had waited years to hear. "Mummy, everything you sacrificed was not wasted." Those words meant more to her than any gift money could buy, because she was not looking for wealth. She was not looking for recognition. She only wanted to know that her son had become someone who would make the struggles worthwhile. Mummy Ejiro smiled through her tears. She looked at the man standing before her and saw the child she had always believed in. "My son, seeing you become a good man is my greatest reward." At that moment, Ejiro understood something important. Success is not only measured by achievements. It is also measured by the people who helped us become who we are. For him, every victory carried his mother's fingerprints. Every accomplishment carried the memory of her sacrifices. Because she did not only raise a child, she raised a dream. And that day, Mummy Ejiro received the greatest reward a mother could ever ask for, knowing that her love, her prayers, and her sacrifices had helped shape a good man. A man who would never forget where he came from. The belief that changed everything. Never underestimate the power of a mother's belief. Sometimes, the greatest force behind a person's success is not money. It is not connections. It is not an easy beginning. Sometimes, it is simply having someone who believes in you when you are still trying to believe in yourself. Behind many successful people is someone who believed before the world believed. Someone who saw greatness before there was evidence. Someone who looked at an ordinary child and saw an extraordinary future. For Ejiro, that person was his mother. Mummy Ejiro saw something in her son that others could not see. When people looked at his struggles, she looked at his potential. When people focused on what he lacked, she focused on what he could become. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. She knew there would be moments of disappointment. She knew there would be times when Ejiro would question himself. But she also knew that every great journey begins with someone believing that it is possible. Through every challenge, she reminded him of one simple truth. "My child, you can do it." Those words became more than encouragement. They became a source of strength. Whenever Ejiro faced rejection, he remembered his mother's voice. Whenever he felt like giving up, he remembered the woman who never gave up on him. Mummy Ejiro never stopped believing. She believed when the future was unclear. She believed when opportunities were far away. She believed when the results had not yet appeared. And because she believed, Ejiro never stopped trying. He continued learning. He continued improving. He continued moving forward, even when the journey was difficult. Because behind every person who achieves something great is often someone who gave them the courage to keep going. Someone who saw a possibility where others saw a problem. Someone who planted hope before success arrived. Mummy Ejiro did not know exactly how her son's story would unfold, but she knew one thing. A person who is supported by love and guided by faith can overcome many obstacles. And years later, Ejiro would understand that his greatest advantage was not where he started. It was having a mother who believed he could rise. Because sometimes, one person's belief is enough to change an entire life. Every story leaves behind a lesson. And the story of Mummy Ejiro reminds us of something powerful. Never underestimate the impact of your words, your support, or your belief in someone. Sometimes, the person standing beside you today may be fighting a battle you cannot see. Sometimes, a simple word of encouragement can become the strength someone needs to continue. Mummy Ejiro did not change her son's life by giving him wealth. She changed his life by giving him something greater: belief. She believed in him when he had no achievements to prove himself. She encouraged him when rejection made him question his ability. She reminded him of his worth when the world made him feel invisible. And because one person believed in him, Ejiro found the courage to keep going. This is the power of love. This is the power of patience. This is the power of someone refusing to give up on another person. So today, ask yourself, who around you needs to hear that they can do it? Who needs a reminder that their struggles do not define their future? Because sometimes, the smallest encouragement can create the biggest change. Believe in someone today. Your encouragement may become the reason they succeed. You have come to the end of this inspiring story. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, Kindly subscribe to Omaza TV for more emotional and inspiring stories. Hit the notification button so you can be the first to know whenever a new story is released. Thank you for watching, and remember, a little kindness, a little hope, and a little belief can change someone's life forever.